Hello and welcome back to the All Out Brits Podcast, the podcast where we send the house on all things NFL from across the seas here in sunny old England. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful week in the NFL. It's knockout season, it's playoff season, and it's win or go home season. And we saw this week in the wildcard round teams that played, gone home, had their season wrapped up very swiftly. And there was plenty that went on. We had more Dak Prescott interceptions than we did have Patrick Mahomes cracked helmets. And we also had more crying Eagles fans than we did have rookie resurgences in the playoff round. But as always, we know that there was plenty that went on and there's plenty to talk about. And as always, to join in everything that we've got going on is a man who, it's been a tough week. I haven't really seen him. He sat before you and he looked so happy and smiling. But I had to go and lasso him off a mountain, Brokeback Mountain, and bring him back to do this podcast with me today. He doesn't look too happy over there, but he's going to be reviewing everything today. Mr. Elliot Greenwood, how are you doing, my friend?
I feel like shit, pal.
What is that? I'm really concerned. Tell me, how's your mental health, mate? It's good to ask you, mates, how's their mental health? What's going on?
It's been one of the most challenging weeks I've had so far in my young NFL career, sir. Supporting a team who, when you have so much expectation, so much hope, and so much joy, of course, over 17 weeks, enjoying them throw a rock around a piece of grass, and for it all to end in that fashion against that team in our own stadium. Yeah, I feel like shit, pal. I really do feel like shit. But yeah, thanks for asking, mate. It's been it's been awful. It's been god awful, pal. How about them Cowboys?
But there's been some good games to talk about, and there's been some happy things to talk about as well. So why don't we get into the action and let's kick off with the first game that we had in the wild card matchups, and that was the Cleveland Browns versus the Houston Texans. Now everyone had this down as the clash of the week, and it's so delivered because, wow, CJ Stroud, we've talked about him over and over again on this podcast, but we just can't get enough of him. Just talk us through what went on in that game.
How good is CJ Stroud? He stands in the pocket. He's so composed. It's the biggest game of his life. And he not only delivers, he absolutely excels. You can just tell the pull that he has on that locker room. He elevates everyone else around him. The offense were making plays, but that defense was superb. Absolutely superb against the Browns. And that Browns defense is one of the best that we've seen in the league over the last few years. It's not like he carved up a team who were full of rookies or who were full of inexperienced players. That was a team full of big-time players. Yeah. Big-time players make big-time moments, and CJ Stroud absolutely delivered. What a week for the rookie, and I can't wait to see him next week. And he has the shot in his rookie season of dragging Houston all the way to the AFC Championship game. It's going to be really exciting looking forward, but that game cemented his legacy as one of probably the best rookie season ever by anyone, without a shadow of a doubt. How do you see that game, Sarah? I thought he was brilliant.
I thought it was absolutely amazing. Like, the thing for me, and we've said quite a few times on this podcast, that offense wins you games, but defense wins you championships. And I think this wildcard round really showed that defenses are the key. And it was the defenses that pretty much won most of these matchups. I think, aside from really probably the Lions and the Rams game, it was really decided by who had the better defense and who was able to sort of manipulate the ball back into their team's hand the most. And that's what we saw, especially in the Texans game. You know, Joe Flacco, Mr. Cool Hand Joe, they've been calling him, the man who's just been so calm and composed this season, throwing interceptions. We've hardly seen that. But that's what defense can make you do. And that's what even this young and sort of flourishing defense that D'Amico Ryans has got going on, this is what he can cause. And he's been incredible. Coach of the year, nailed on. And this is an absolute fairy tale ride for the Texans, surely.
I think it is a fairy tale ride. He's not my coach of the year. I'll be honest. He's not my coach of the year. But he can for sure be yours. But yeah, what a season they're having. And I hope to God that it continues. And I can see them playing 2 more games, you know, bro. And I really hope that they do.
Well, you've already had it predicted down that it was going to be the Bills and the Texans. So you're not doing too badly with those predictions there.
My
Oh,
Mate, my AFC bracket was completely right. The NFC, we kind of missed on most of them, but in the AFC, I was spot on. So I'm quite chuffed, to be fair, mate. I'll be honest with you.
well, shall we stick with the AFC then and head to the game after, with that being the Dolphins and the Chiefs? Now, another game which we earmarked as sort of a Chiefs win pretty much, and it ended up being just that, because the Dolphins just can't get it done against teams that win. And it's a recurring theme. Maybe we had some excuses with the cold, one of the coldest playoff games I think they had in recent years. But you also mentioned it last pod that Tua cannot do it in the cold. And he was absolutely freezing because he could not get anything running on that offense. How embarrassing was that of a game for the Dolphins?
It was shocking. When you're the most explosive team in the NFL, coming off a season where the Dolphins have really transformed everything that they've done on the offensive side of the ball, but yet there's still been a lot of questions about Tua and how he plays ball, and can he do it in those big time moments? And it's still, over the course of the season, they've only beaten one team over 500. And that, for me, just shows how much they kind of fluked the way through the season. It's going to be really, really interesting next year when they've got a bit more of a challenging schedule, some more challenging teams. But that game, the one and done after the season that they've had, shambolic. The game itself, though, the fourth coldest game in NFL history. People are spending $20 on beer, and it was just a slushy in no time. You see the video of like the water bottle being taken out of the fridge and it instantly freezing. Absolutely incredible. And I saw another video of like steam coming off Travis Kelce's head, and I thought that man looks incredible in this moment. It was super, but yeah, just amazing that they even managed to play the game. Kelce on his podcast said it was like running on concrete, but yeah, we knew it was going to happen. Patrick Mahomes always delivers in the playoffs, and that's what he did.
Yeah, man, he took a bash to the head, had his helmet ripped to shreds, just to show how cold it was, but also how brutal of a game it was, that even though we're saying it was pretty much an easy Chiefs win, they still had to grind it out. We still didn't really see the offense firing on all cylinders that we know the Chiefs can do. A few drop catches early on from Kelce, from his receiving core as well. So it's still not all there, but it's better than what we've seen from the Chiefs, and it's a bit more routine. And I always think that the Chiefs have got a good run in, but now that they go to Buffalo to face Buffalo in another cold game in the wildcard matchups, it's going to be a long day for Patrick Mahomes. But it was a great day, Mr. Josh Allen. Why don't you tell us what happened in that game? Because I feel like Pittsburgh fans won't want to be talking about that one for a while.
For that game to even go ahead was an absolute spectacle in itself.
Yeah.
Obviously, the game got delayed because of the weather, but did you see that storm, bro?
Crazy.
It was absolutely crazy. It was mental. The wind was howling, the snow was falling, but the people of Buffalo showed out. They came to the stadium and they shoveled. They brought the shovels and they cleared all the snow. They cleared it in the stands just to make sure that the game could happen. I thought that was really kind of Josh Allen really repaid his fans by getting the stadium and getting them all together. But Josh Allen, again, we don't doubt him on this podcast. We love him to pieces. And there's a reason for that. He breaks tackles and he runs for touchdowns. When he's brilliant, he's brilliant. When he's crap, he's crap. But when he's brilliant, he's brilliant. And when he stands there and he delivers with the rock in his hand, or he runs and he makes a man miss, or he fakes a throw and then makes a man miss, and he runs linebackers over, he runs safeties over, he breaks tackles. He's such an incredible and fun quarterback to watch. And what a matchup it's going to be. Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen. We all love to see it. Once again, they meet, and now they're meeting in Buffalo. It's going to be a great game, that one, Taz. How do you think Josh Allen is going to go? And how would you rate his performance that week against Pittsburgh?
Again, I thought it was absolutely immense. I mean, I could not believe, first of all, that the game wasn't done and dusted by halftime. Obviously, Pittsburgh had a bit of a resurgence in the second half, but they absolutely blew them away. And that Bills defense, I don't think it's talked about how good they are when it comes to it. The forced fumbles, the pressure that they put on was absolutely outstanding. But Josh Allen, wow, just some of the passes. But this is the thing that Josh Allen just needs to keep doing. He doesn't need to dump it 60 yards down the line. We know he can do that. He doesn't need to throw a bazooka down into the end zone. He just needs to know when to play, the big shots that he can do, but also when to just get 10 yards, when to get 15 yards, when to just make those small little completions, and then when to scramble effectively like he did in that, because, wow, he's got legs. He has got legs, and he really showed that. And he's such a talent. He's so amazing. But I think sometimes what lets him down is he tries to show that talent off a bit too much, to a point where it ends up, damaging the team. And there's games this season where he just doesn't need to make the passes and plays that he does. That's my only fear for Josh Allen. And when you're playing this Chiefs team, who they've met so many times out, they know what he's like. You can't afford to, make those wrong decisions, because the man on the other side of the ball can absolutely take a game away. And Allen's seen that himself. In 12 seconds or whatever it was, he saw the Chiefs come back and absolutely ruin, the Bills' hopes in that season. And so he knows that he can't mess up. And I just hope for everyone, as a neutral, as an NFL fan, we want it to be a shootout, but we don't want it to be decided by one quarterback being absolutely stinking. We want it to be hotly contested, and the best quarterback wins at the end of the day.
Absolutely, mate. And both those defenses, the last couple of weeks, they've started to stand up nice and tall. Only 7 points the Kansas City team gave up against the Dolphins, one of the most explosive teams. And you mentioned in 2 minutes about those defenses being the kind of the decider in those games. And that's kind of what it was for the Chiefs and also for the Bills. If defense can make plays, again, they will get you going. The best thing to do is keep your defense off the field as an offense. Yeah. And that's what both sides managed to do this week. So, yeah, that game is going to be really, really exciting. There's going to be a lot of balls thrown deep, a lot of opportunities for the cornerbacks and the safety to make plays, as well as those defensive fronts to kind of get to the QB. So we'll definitely see what's going to go on that one. But, I cannot wait for that game.
Definitely, mate.
Yeah, right, lad, you having a stroke? What's going on?
I've actually, oh my God. I've just seen some horrifying news actually that's come up on my phone about the NFL. Well, there's been a tragic death in the NFL. Well, it looks like we have to report it on this podcast. Unfortunately, guys, the Dallas Cowboys have died a tragic death in the NFL this season. Sweetheart, you sit there in silence and you listen to this now, boy. Dallas Cowboys, to every single NFL fan here. Green Bay, you have done an absolute service. Everyone, look at this man here. Look at him. He's a joker, mate. He's one of them. There's a reason why they're the most hated franchise, the most hated fan base. This is why. Because we knew it. I kept my mouth shut on this podcast. I knew what was going to happen. I let him talk his absolute waffle. And you know what? He's been found out. They're an absolute joker bunch. And you know what? I'm ashamed. I'm absolutely ashamed. Because they came out with these slogans. Seize everything, they said. They used the Sikh imagery. Seize everything. The closest to season they've got is a bloody Caesar salad. And that's what they are. They're a bunch of tossed up, washed up crap in a bowl. And they got dressed down by the Green Bay Packers. And I've never been happier in my life. And you know what makes it even better? You know what makes it even better, Mr. Elliot Greenwood? Dak Prescott, your man, MV Prescott, you called him. Well, I called him the most valuable prude. And you know why? Because this time, he actually learnt to use the ball, but he used it the wrong way because he threw it to the opposition every single time. And he said, and I quote, after he did his, here we go, he said, I'm not wearing this hat. I'm not wearing this NFC champs hat. Oh, I'm not doing that bollocks. No. He said, I want something bigger. Well, if he wants something bigger than what he's already got, he might as well start looking at BBW women, because there is no way in hell that man is getting a hand on Lombardi Trophy. And I've never been happier. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Green Bay Packers, for ruining this man's night, ruining this man's week, and for ruining the Dallas Cowboys dynasty. Once again, how about them Cowboys?
Twat. You absolute twat. Yeah. 27-0 at home in our own stadium. To say that our stadium, AT&T, sponsored by a telecommunications company, to say that, and then we've got absolutely zero coverage on the defense. Jordan Love is good, but it was just so bad. Like, it was actually so bad. I was watching that game. Not only did it ruin my Monday, bro, but I also had to go in on Monday and cancel my annual leave for the NFC Championship, the day
Why
after
did
the
you book it
NFC
off?
Championship game.
Oh, yeah. Because you thought you were going to play.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had to cancel my annual leave because we lost. I planned for us to win. I planned for us to get all the way to the Super Bowl, to get all the way. And I saw a comment which on the Dallas Cowboys Instagram page after the game, which really just summed up the loss for me, and how bad of a season it's turned out to be. It's from a guy, random man, and it goes, "I just smashed my TV in front of 30 guests at my party because of the game. My wife just took all our kids. They're crying, and they're spending the week at a hotel. This team has ruined my life and my party. I can't handle this anymore. Goodbye, Cowboys. I am no longer a fan. That seals the deal. I am no longer a Dallas Cowboys fan. This team is pure utter embarrassment to the city of Dallas. I officially will not be renewing my season ticket next season. Nor will I ever watch them on TV again. I'm going to support a different team, the Kansas City Chiefs. They know how to run a real football team, not like the Dallas Cowboys." And that just really hit home. I'll be honest with you, Tyrone. That really hit home.
Is that how you feel? Do you think this is the end of your Cowboys fandom? Is that what it is? Oh my God!
How about the Bears?
Oh, you're a joker, pal. Everybody in the NFL, this is a disgrace of a Cowboys fan here. Oh my Lord.
We move. Right, can we just stop talking about it? Because we know we were bad. We know we were bad.
Wow. I cannot believe what I've just seen. And you know what? I see this image every single year, the Cowboys cycle, and it's so true. They win a few games, they start crying, oh yeah, Dak Prescott and that Skip Bayless. You know what he can do? He can shove a jam jar where the sun don't shine because he is an absolute tool, mate. Absolute tool. They're a bunch of tools, honestly. And you know what? I'm so happy because I've had to listen to you waffle for a year now. And every podcast, he talks his crap about the Cowboys, and I just sit here and smile. And I'm so happy. I'm upset that we didn't get to humble you, but I'm so happy that it was just a demolishing. It wasn't even like a close one-score game. Oh.
No,
wow.
it was like we came alive with 5 minutes and change left to play. Like, what was the point? You may as well have gone home. 27-0. 27-7 at halftime, but 27-0. Game was over. It should have been like Jordan Love got pulled. That's how bad we were. Jordan Love got pulled out of the game because they knew it wouldn't matter. And then you see the cheek of that twat on the last play of the game to go, here we go, and then take the knee. What? Shut up, you stupid man. But like the thing is, though, he is just going to beat the San Francisco 49ers next week. Like he is. Jordan Love is. He's unbelievable. Also, I had a comment from some twat who said, oh, he'll look really good in green, this lad. Shut up, you little fool, all right? Green's my worst colour, all right? Don't you dare say I'm going to look good in green. I look good in blue, in Cowboys blue, or Chicago blue now. Tal, can we just, like, promise not to speak about this ever again? Because it's, like, actually quite upsetting.
You know what I love? There are so many just Americans, just so many fans of the NFL just sat here watching this going, serves you right. Everyone is relishing this right as much as I am. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And you know what? We will stop talking about the Cowboys aspect of it. I'll give you that. But we'll talk about the Green Bay element. Obviously, we'll look at Jordan Love. We'll look at CJ Stroud. Almost identical performances from the two rookies there. Wow. Just wow. To be doing that in the playoffs, on the big stage. And I think the big talking point is obviously CJ Stroud was at home, but Jordan Love was away from home. And he's had an up and down season this year. So to be doing that in the playoffs, does that just show how much these players have had to go through and to have that composure and to deliver? It's just out of this world, I think.
Obviously, he's kind of learned for a long time, Jordan Love. He sat behind Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years. And Aaron Rodgers obviously taught him how to be the Dallas Cowboys. Well, enough about that. He was absolutely sensational. He was superb. That opening, the opening drive of the game really set the tone for the entire team. They had kind of Aaron Jones running the football, creating gaps, and he was throwing the rock really, really well. And I think he's quite a scary proposition on the road. And I think as a Niners fan, bro, you can't not be worried about what they did to. Obviously, you're gonna say anything that you want about the Dallas Cowboys defense, and yes, bro, it was shocking. Like some of the coverages were terrible, some of the looks were terrible.
Yeah.
But he still tore it up, and he's torn apart the Chiefs this season. He's now torn apart the Cowboys. He's torn apart big teams in big stadiums in big moments. Jordan Love, at the moment, he's the man. And that's horrible to say, but he is absolutely sensational. In his third year in the league, I think he's been brilliant, absolutely brilliant this season. And I hope that he can shut you up next week, because it's my turn to rant next week, boy. You've had your chance, and next week you've been silent, boy. You've been quiet as a mouse. I'm not having it. Last time, nothing else.
I believe the stat is, though, that the last time the lowest seeded team or the 7th seeded team or something like that beat the 1 seed was when the 49ers came in 2 seasons back and came and beat Green Bay when they were the 1 seed. So it could be role reverse, and that was at Green Bay. So you never know. I know. You never know. And that was a great game. I stayed up for that one and watched Jimmy Garoppolo absolutely win us the game. Yeah. It wasn't. It was a defense, mate. But it was Jimmy G every single time. But shall we head on to the other games in the NFC? We'll leave the Cowboys talk for another day. Green Bay go through, make it a very interesting encounter in the NFC. And then we have 2 other games. Should we start with the big one, actually? We'll leave the Rams game until the very end. Eagles, Bucks. Now, you had some absolutely stinking calls last week on the pod, which have been called out by a lot of people on social media. I believe 7,000 people have watched your rant about the Cowboys and their belief that they were going to be very assured into the next round of
8,000.
Yeah, but
8,000.
No, just no chance, mate. But you were right when you said the city of Philadelphia was going to lose its marbles, that they were not going to get it done, and that Tampa was absolutely going to tear them apart. And Baker Mayfield had an absolute day against the Philly Eagles. Before we move on to the big talking point from that game, how disappointing a performance was that from the Eagles? And was it what you expected, or did you just sort of have a bit of shock?
That's absolutely what I expected.
Yeah, fair enough.
We spoke about it so much. They were the most overrated team, like a big win team that we've seen in the league in the last few years. Even more overrated than the Pittsburgh team from a few seasons ago. They go from sitting at 10-1, number 1 in the division, looking so comfortable, but still not playing very good football, to then moving to 1-6 to end the season. And everything's falling apart now in Philadelphia. And I love to see it. Cry Eagles, cry returns.
Cry Eagles, cry. Screw you, man.
We love it. Absolutely love it. That's the only thing that cheered me up, was waking up it was the day after the Cowboys lost. Waking up and seeing that Philadelphia also got absolutely demolished. Yeah. And now the NFC East is the only division, actually, which doesn't have a team in the next round of the playoffs. Something quite interesting. But I think it's less about the Philly team and more about Tampa. And Baker Mayfield in particular. And can we just appreciate the journey that this man has been on? Yeah. He was drafted number 1 overall by the Cleveland Browns a few years ago, and he didn't have a sensational career there, but he did lead them to their first playoff win in years, absolute years, and he really did start the transformation of that franchise. And then he got traded to the Panthers, and he struggled there, and didn't really get anything done. And then the same season that he went to the Panthers, he went to the Rams and again came in 1 week, won a game, then really nothing more as the QB came back in LA. And then to start the season in Tampa in a quarterback contest, and then to lead his team to an NFC South title. And he shows up in the first round of the playoff against the reigning NFC champs. And he throws for 337 yards, 3 touchdowns and 0 picks. But not only that, his big time plays in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, they got less than 50 yards each that game. So that just shows that was him and his performance that really delivered and dragged his team over the line. And what an absolutely sensational game that was. 32 points he put up. against a Philly team that's supposed to be one of the best ever, was supposed to be one of the greatest teams of recent memory, and they weren't, and they're not. And I told you, and the people listening need to keep their ears open for when I say things. The Cowboy stuff, that's all. We know there's bias there, but when there's no bias, listen, because the Brit knows what he's on about, okay? Yeah. Listen to the Brit. Sometimes we say some absolute waffle, but other times, Taryn, we spit facts.
We do spit facts. We do.
And that game was straight facts. Baker Mayfield took no shit. He threw the rock and he went home. And he's playing again next week. And I hope he does the same, because there's some massive, massive games next week. But I think the game between Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff, that is a game of story, absolute story and legacy for those two players.
Of course. And I mean, it makes it very, very interesting to see who is going to be in that championship game, because it could be teams that we don't expect. You know, I think arguably the Niners in the NFC bracket are probably the only team you expected to be later on, even though they are the one seed, makes it a bit obvious. But at the same time, you did not expect the results that we saw. And I think that the big tweet that I saw was that Baker Mayfield is the reincarnation of Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football. And it is so true. I think it's amazing to watch Baker play, because like you said, it's a story where we talked about earlier on this podcast that people turn in his shirt so that they could get a different one, because they do not rate him whatsoever. They wanted Joe Flacco. They did not want Baker Mayfield's shirt. And now look, you know, Baker Mayfield having to step into Brady's shoes as well and fill that void. And he's done incredibly well, you know, and like you said, what an amazing man. And it's great to see for the league. I think he's a great personality. And I just think that Tampa team, they are extremely underrated. And even though they were missing Mike Evans, I don't think Mike Evans played, did he? I'm sure he was injured.
I think he played some of the game, but I don't think he played it all. Yeah. I think he missed the majority of the game,
But there you go. So then he's still having to trust Chris Godwin. He's having to trust, you know, other players, Trey Palmer as well. It's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And that's what we want in the NFL. And like you said, us Brits kind of know what we're talking about. We really, really do. And speaking of knowing what we're talking about, another dodgy prediction was the Rams and the Lions game, which I think everybody was quite surprised about. Now, I was under the impression that Sam Laporta had no chance of playing in this game whatsoever. Lo and behold, he comes back. And as soon as I saw that, I knew that the Lions were in business, that this was not going to be a contest. It was a contest, though. And it just showed how good the offenses were on both sides of the ball. What an amazing game. And what a clash. What an absolute clash between the ex-Lions man and the ex-Rams man. And it was the ex-Rams man that came out on top in the end, wasn't it?
Absolutely, mate. And the week started with Eminem coming out and chatting to Matt Stafford, saying that I was there when you won your Super Bowl. I sang for you. I was there. But Detroit showed up. The city of Detroit I couldn't be more happy for them. And one man in particular, Jared Goff, I can't imagine how happy he is. And I couldn't be more pleased for that man. Yeah. The storyline all week was Stafford's homecoming. This is Stafford's time to come back and show Detroit what they're missing out on. But let's talk about Jared Goff. Yeah. So he's drafted really high overall. I think he's drafted first overall by a team who then trade you to upgrade at the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. So then they get the quarterback in, and he ends up going to a bad team. And the team that he was on in the Rams end up going to the Super Bowl and winning and hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. And that's your kind of replacement who's come in to do that. Then you're in Detroit. You get a new head coach in who talks about biting kneecaps. And he talks about gouging eyes out. And he really just transforms that organization. And then you make the playoffs for the first time in years in Detroit. First time in absolutely donkey's years to make the playoffs in the home stadium. And who comes in to try and spoil the party? The guy they told you not to worry about, Matthew Stafford, comes back. But guess what? Jared Goff, he stood there and he absolutely delivered. And maybe, in my opinion, Matt Stafford did outplay him a little bit. But the pieces that Goff has got around him and that coaching staff that he's got around him were absolutely sensational. I couldn't be happy for the Detroit Lions. And I think a very, very deserved win. And I couldn't be more happy for that franchise.
Of course. And it means now that we have an absolute classic of a matchup in the next round. Like you mentioned, Baker Mayfield taking on Jared Goff, almost the unwanted, the untouchables. Nobody wanted them, and now they're playing for a spot in the NFC Championship game. What an absolute storyline that is! And we've then got on the other side in the AFC, we've got the rookie versus the previous MVP in CJ Stroud and Lamar, and it's the new and the old, really, when you think about it. It's amazing stories all around.
The script writers have been busy this season.
Yeah,
They have.
really have.
Do you know what? They've delivered. And hopefully they keep on delivering because the games have been fun. They've been majestic and the stories have been really, really riveting. And yeah, it's just been a really exciting playoff season, I believe.
The only devastating thing about the NFL script this season is the possible retirement of Mr. Jason Kelce. Kind of missed out on it when we were talking about the Eagles there, but we've got to talk about it. What a horrid end for the man. Now, I think a lot of people that have started really getting to NFL recently, especially in the last year or so, can thank Mr. Jason Kelce and Mr. Travis Kelce for really sparking that, I'd argue. Especially, it seems, on this side of the pond, that it's just such a big thing because they are such cool guys. It's an amazing brotherhood story. To me, I absolutely think they're great. You know, having a brother of my own, watching them two, it's the bond that you want between brothers. It's the amazing thing knowing that your younger sibling is always chasing after you, knowing that they can't be as good as you are. It's an amazing thing, and that's what it is. It's amazing. He's not gonna like that. Don't forget it.
He's not. When he listens to that back, he's going to be cussing you out, bro.
Look, it is an amazing thing, and Jason Kelce, what a man, what an amazing man, and it is devastating for him if this is his last dance. He said, in his sort of documentary that he was playing through the pain and that the decision to play this season was really last minute. And he promised, Kylie that he didn't want to play again. But it's a devastating day, really, when you think about it for all of the NFL, for the man himself. What can you say about Kelce and what he's brought to the NFL and what legacy he's leaving behind in the end?
It may have been a bit of a shoddy last dance, but the dances that he's done previously have been absolutely majestic. They've been wonderful. They've been flamboyant. That man he single-handedly just kind of, not only has he dragged the city of Philadelphia to a place of euphoria when they won the Super Bowl, but I think he's also kind of galvanized the entire league and galvanized the league internationally. You spoke about what he's done in the UK, and I think even in America he's been absolutely sensational. 13 seasons in the NFL, and he's going to the Hall of Fame. First ballot Hall of Famer. One of the greatest centers, if not the greatest center to ever play the game of football. And yeah, I think it will be really sad to see him go. But at the same time, I think he's achieved everything that he's set out to want to achieve. I think coming into this season, I think he kind of only wanted to be there because of how amazing last season finished with his brother and playing in the Super Bowl and how amazing that was, and with his mum kind of being the center of the stage. And now knowing that that's probably not going to happen. Obviously, it's not happening this year, but I doubt it's going to happen next year. I don't see the Philadelphia Eagles rebuilding anytime soon. Either Kelce goes, or I can just see him go. I don't think he plays football again. Like you mentioned last week, those endorsements are coming. They're going to get a bit of coin behind him. But yeah, I just think what an amazing career and what an amazing legacy that he's had. And yeah, one of the greatest to ever play the game.
Of course, and he's been holding it down for us big boys, man. I don't know if I want to play in the O-line anymore now, and that he's not going to be there.
I thought you were D lineman.
I switched sides because of Kelce, mate. I might have to switch back.
Yeah, no one's blocking you, bro.
Yeah, no chance. But speaking of international players and international pathways, the big talking point this week, which will feed in to our sideline question, is the announcement that whatever his name is, Reese's Jemmett, Saffron Barker's boyfriend, we like to call him, playing for Gloucester Rugby, the Welshman has decided that he's had enough of rugby. He wants to go play the American version of it and head over to the NFL as part of the international player program. We've seen some amazing players go through that program, Efe Obada and Jordan Mailata as well. And so you never know, very soon we could be seeing a Welshman playing in the NFL. And so the question really beckons there. A lot of people have given him stick for it and don't really understand the changeover. But if you had the opportunity, would you want to go over to the NFL if you were already at that elite level of sport? But also rugby and NFL, very similar games. But which one's tougher? Which one's harder to play? What are you thinking on that one, Mr. Elliot?
I think tougher and harder to play are two very, very separate questions.
Yeah.
I think the game of American football, the game of football, is a tougher, more complicated game to play because there's so many different intricacies. There's so many different movements that mean different things. Words mean different things. And the playbook is absolutely huge. Whereas in rugby, you don't have a playbook. You have set plays that you do from sort of line-outs, from scrums, but they're not as in much detail as kind of swing passes or kind of dragging a guard out or a screen or anything like that. The NFL is such a complex game, which is why the people who do play it very well are paid very well. So I think that's got to be a massive incentive over. The money in the NFL is absolutely incredible. The money that some of these players are raking in compared to what they would do in rugby is dramatically different. The tougher game, I must say, if you're going out on a field with a helmet and shoulder pads, you can't claim to be hard. Like, you can't.
Very true.
I think rugby is much more of a man's sport, of a man's game. It's a tougher sport for real men, for northern men, for British northern good-hearted men, Taryn. And I think rugby is a much more physical and a bit more of a tougher game than American football. But I don't know how you see that, Taz. Obviously, you're a big lad. You've definitely delivered plenty of hits in your time. What do you think, pal?
Yeah, the hits I deliver, people don't get back up from those. I'll tell you that much. I'm still lying there with neck brace on the floor. So I was an avid rugby player. I had a bit about me.
Winger, weren't you?
Huh?
Winger, weren't you?
Winger, more of a hooker, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I bet you.
But no, it's a very interesting sport. I think it's one of those sports where I agree with you there. It's sort of a lot more brutal in a sense, but I also think that in terms of toughness, I'd argue American football is, because if you think in rugby, yeah, you're taking a hit, but then you sort of roll over, ruck the ball, and that's it. You're pretty much done because the ball's going across the other side of the pitch, so you have that time to recover really, and that's about it. And you don't really sort of have to deal with the intensity of running around at full pelt, for example, if you're a wide receiver or even a tight end, and then, making a catch, running for more yards, getting smacked, and then having to do it again, and then again, maybe for 3-4 plays, but if you are the star man. And I think that takes a lot because you're having to give your all every single play, because if you don't, it's millimeters really. Whereas in rugby, you can be a bit sort of lax with a pass because it can sort of work out better for you. And I don't know, I just feel like American football seems a bit more intense, play by play. You constantly have to be on it. Whereas rugby, from sort of playing it, yes, it's intense, but like you mentioned there, it's not as sort of mentally tasking, although it is physically. I just think total all round in toughness and things like that. I think American football has got to be delivering some serious power to you.
You're just trying to lick American ass, aren't you? That's all you're trying to do.
Mate. Not whatsoever.
You're dying for that.
What are you on about?
Oh, actually minging, bro. You're actually just dying for that American passport. You're gonna go down to the embassy in the morning and show them this tape and just see if you can get in there yourself, bro.
I don't think they'll let me anywhere near the embassy, to be perfectly honest with you, pal.
Not with the way that tongue moves, bro. Yeah, but I think you're missing on that one, bro. I'll be honest. You've said a lot of good things on this podcast. But yeah, I'd very much disagree with that.
Maybe put it to the people. We'll see what they have to say about our two comments there. I'm sure there's a few people will agree and disagree, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm sure. We'll put a poll up somewhere if we figure out how to do it.
We will indeed.
We'll put one up.
But what a wonderful week in the NFL again, and what a wonderful podcast we've been through. I'm going to bookmark this one as probably one of my favorites. Seeing you change allegiances, seeing you in tears, seeing you whinge and whine has been absolutely bloody delightful. It's absolutely delightful, And I'm so glad that everyone has been able to join us in seeing the demise of Mr. Elliot Greenwood. So glad that everyone's been able to see the demise of the Cowboys. And if you wish to see more content like this, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube. And keep your eyes out on the TikTok and our Spotify pages, because there's plenty of content on there if you get bored or you're just missing us, because we're always here. And as always, on this podcast, we send you back for more every single time. And so thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. Keep your eye out for our preview podcast of all the divisional matchups that are coming up this weekend. And as always, we'll see you next time on the All Out Brits podcast.
Peace!